Hi everyone, and happy New Year. So we've had Martin again today for part three of his Yorkshire megalithic complex. We did expand out into other areas, not just
Oh, too
Yorkshire.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did. That went all sorts of places I wasn't expecting, really.
yeah, absolutely. Especially France and some alignments up with Karnak and also Notre Dame in
Yeah.
Paris.
Devon, Cornwall, Southeast Wales.
Yeah.
We were all over, weren't we? So I really hope you folks enjoy that. There should be a little bit of everything for everyone.
Absolutely. And one thing which was a bit of a bombshell was is there a devil's line that goes across from adjacent to the Michael's line, which is in the keeping of the whole myth of Archangel Michael and the devil. So he goes into a whole thing about that, and I hope you enjoy that too.
Yeah, it'll be fab. We're just going to mention a couple of things coming up. Sticking on the theme of star maps, we've got Steve Willett coming to talk about the Southeast Wales zodiac as first proposed by Wilson and Blackett in their book, The Discovery of the Ark of the Covenant. And we're very excited to have Steve Steve on, not off, he's on. You might remember him from speaking to Ross a couple of times. Uh, which you might still be able to find on the Britain's Hidden History channel. But yeah, we're really looking forward to diving into that and seeing what revelations Steve has for us on that front. And we've got a couple of our own bits coming up, haven't we, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working on a few things. There's enough information for a London hidden London round two, so I'm going to come back with
Nice.
that. And I'm working on so it's sort of like a video on the legacy of British Christianity. So I'm delving into this book quite a lot, which you can get at the website where Jesus is buried. I think Ross wanted to call it Britain's Hidden Christianity as well at one point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that's very much the theme of the sort of content. So I'll be looking at that and trying to give that whole subject some air to breathe in the video,
Yeah.
and much
I
more
think
to come.
we've touched on it so many times, but to really flesh it out and dive into it would be fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So
Um,
that's all to come.
Absolutely. So hope you enjoy, Marty. And we're in Yorkshire Megalithic Complex, part three. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
So, right. So, episode three of the Yorkshire Megalithic Complex, which you'll find that there's not an awful lot of Yorkshire in today's episode. So, we get into Wales, France, Cornwall, and I don't know, Dorset and Devon and places like that. Places I don't know where they are.
It sounds wonderful. We're doing our romantic tour of Western Europe, are we?
Well, some of it, yeah.
Some of it, okay. That'll do.
And this, well, we'll discuss this one later on, but this is in Oxfordshire, this particular circle. So the story so far, so we'll just catch up for those that might be coming into this as a first episode and I missed the first two, or people that didn't pay attention to the episodes 1 and 2. So we started off by, if you remember, that part of this was in the episode 1 was my journey to understanding that there were things in our locality that were interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend anyone to investigate the local history that's around them. So certainly in Britain, I mean, it's so deep and long term that you can go anywhere from, I guess, pre-Neolithic right through to the Industrial Revolution and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see here is Yorkshire, the Thornborough Henges, which are 3 big henges near Ripon, and also not very far south of there there's the devil's arrows. Now, I particularly like this picture, actually, because it shows all three, and it's an old picture. And it gives you an idea of size, because now there's the field is well farmed and been ploughed several times for a year by the looks of it, and there's a build-up of earth around the bottom, so you just can't see how big this thing is. This is the smallest one. So, and the other two are actually substantially bigger.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice to see in a bigger image, because I think you showed us this one before, but it was quite little on the screen.
Yeah,
so it's
that's right.
Nice to see it bigger. That is, it's a beautiful image.
The one in the far distance is the second biggest monolith in England, Britain actually, and the one in the middle is the third biggest. Right? And then we come to the biggest, which is the Rudstone monolith. So I found all these, and if you remember, I didn't know what to make of them, and I woke up at 3 in the morning with my 3 o'clock voices saying, is there something that ties them together? And if you remember, even the archaeologists think this might be Orion's belt. So before we move on to that bit, Peter, you mentioned last time that some people might not know what a henge is.
Yeah, it's a slippery definition, isn't it?
It is a slippery definition. So a lot of people are going to think this is a henge. Well, it's not. It's a blingy stone circle.
You're right. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
This is the henge. So it's a raised embankment, usually circular, but not always, with probably 2 entrances, but there might only be 1, but there might be more. There's a ditch inside the embankment, and then a raised centre. So if you think about it, if you've got one of these that's sort of 800-foot diameter, there's an awful lot of work gone into building that thing.
Absolutely.
Right, so Stonehenge is actually all of this, and you can see why it's called Stonehenge, because there's the stones that we have up there, and here's the henge that goes around it. Yeah.
I think it was the prehistory guys made a joke of what makes Stonehenge special, and the answer was lintels.
Actually, the stones are big, to be fair.
I mean, it's a bit of a snarky remark, but it really does pretty much the essential difference between Stonehenge and a lot of our other monuments is it has lintels.
I mean, I always think that it gets far too much attention, and other sites get hardly any. I mean, there's sort of 2 places that get attention, Neolithic-wise in Britain, and there's Stonehenge, and there's Orkney, isn't it?
Orkney, yeah. Absolutely.
But
I think it's interesting. Can I just point out on your little one with your arrows on it that very important that the bank's on the outside and the ditch is on the inside.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is important, because otherwise it could be a defensive structure. You don't want the enemy leaping over your wall and into well, I suppose it could be defensive, but it's much less likely to. You'd rather have them coming out of the ditch onto the wall rather than the way around.
Yeah.
Right. At Thornborough, the embankment was thought to be about 14 foot high. If you remember, I estimated it 12 or 13 foot, so, and 65 foot wide. Pretty big. The ditch is still up to 2.6 meters deep in places and 20 meters wide. So pretty big. Okay, so if you remember, the archaeologists think that Orion's belt, which is here, is represented by Thornborough. So I was wondering whether the devil's arrows represented something, and I knew nothing about the stars at this point. So I nearly got up in the middle of the night and didn't, which is good because I'd never found it. But if you actually look at a star map, you get this arrangement. So the Pleiades down here, and this is the Hyades with the
V shape.
face of the bull, right? Which I ignored when I first looked at it, and I immediately jumped to the conclusion it was the Pleiades, and it was. So after a lot of effort and a lot of experimentation with methods and things like this, this is what I came up with. I've enlarged the size of the monuments so that they stand out. So this is Thornborough, and you can see where the stars are. This is the devil's arrows, and you can just see the green rectangles there. Yeah. I've enlarged the stars, otherwise you won't see anything.
Yeah.
And this is Canabarn Henge, and that's where Aldebaran is. So this star here.
Yeah.
So that's a close-up of the devil's arrows.
Great.
And with the stars are still enlarged a little on that close-up, so you can imagine them closing in slightly. So that's where we got to with the star map. Now, other things we covered was the Egyptian star map, and I'm pretty sure that there is something there. We then talked about links between Egypt and Yorkshire. So, for instance, the walls of both monuments, the pyramids and the henges, were coated in white, and there's the name of the river. They're both on significant points of latitude. And there's 2 or 3 others. If anyone's interested, they need to go and look at episode 1.
Yeah. Whippets and big.
We also talked about the Neolithic builders and how they have put mysteriously vanished. We don't know why it happened, but they almost totally vanished, leaving hardly any DNA at all. And I guess part of that is there's not that much evidence, and the rest is that archaeologists just aren't interested. That's my take on it anyway. We went on to then talk about the positioning of the site. So this is what we've got with Thornborough up there, the Devil's Arrows down there, and Canabarn there. And we can draw an absolutely straight line from Thornborough to the Devil's Arrows, and this line up here to Canabarn. So we talked about the possibility that, or the actuality, that this line down here to Canabarn picks out the southernmost rise point of Aldebaran. Now that happens in 9600 BC. And if you remember, 9600 BC, we said was Plato's date for the destruction of Atlantis. It was also the end of a period of time called the Younger Dryas, which I guess quite a lot of people see this will know what the Younger Dryas is, but some won't be totally baffled. So the last ice age, or the ice ages come and go, and there's periods between that are called interglacials. Those periods last about 10,000 years. So the last ice age started about 100,000 years ago. It's 110 probably. And it was beginning to come to an end about 20,000 years ago, and the climate was warming. And then at about 14,000 years, there was a sudden rapid rise, and that was reflected in a sea level rise, big sea level rise. And then some wild fluctuations in the 2,000 years after that. So a sudden drop, another rise, and then a huge drop into temperatures that were the same as the absolute depths of the Ice Age. And that point where that drop occurs is the start of a geological period called the Younger Dryas. It's named after a small alpine flower called something Dryas. That period lasted 12, 13, 1400 years. And there does seem evidence that it was caused by a comet impact, or maybe an enormous solar flare. So something.
Several comet impacts as well.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
I mean, my opinion is that we know that there was a comet in the inner solar system, a big one, and it came into the system around about 20 to 30,000 years ago, and I can't remember the guy's names, but two pretty famous British astronomers have put together the evidence from the streams of the Oranids, the Taurids, and such like, and decided that they all converged together. So they think that there was a comet that was about 100 miles in diameter, and it's slowly fragmented, and that the Earth had multiple impacts with it. I mean, all it has to do is run through the stream of, comet comes past, leaves a load of debris behind.
Yeah, it's not even like them hitting us, is it? It's more like us flying into them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, maybe we should steer our way better around it.
Fish of Earth.
Anyway, 9,600 years ago, it was the end of the Younger Dryas, and that was catastrophic as well. So the temperature rose 10 degrees centigrade, probably in less than a year. And just after that, we got enormous, once again, sea level rises called meltwater pulse 1b. So something dramatic happened at that time. Now, if we look at the area around Aldebaran, which is here, we see that there are multiple these are the points where these meteor streams come from.
Oh, right. Okay. So when you look up at the night sky during a meteor shower,
they all appear to radiate from the same point.
The same
and
point.
That's the radiant point of the meteor stream. And on Stellarium, you can get it to show where those radiant points are on a given day. Now, it will only show those points on days when meteors do come from that, so they're periodic throughout the year, obviously. So the Taurids, for instance, start in September and run through to the middle of November. But you notice that they all seem to come from around about Aldebaran. So is there something going on that these people wanted us to remember this period in time? And if you're not convinced, that one's supposed to pop up then. I found this Dakota Sioux myth that says that Aldebaran fell to earth after killing a serpent and created the Mississippi River. Now that, to me, sounds like we know that meltwater pulse 1b was mainly water coming off the American continent and flowing into the Gulf of Mexico. So that sounds like that event.
Absolutely. Just exactly where the Mississippi goes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So the second one we looked at was Ripon Cathedral, if you remember the Ripon Cathedral proposal. So I've got several possible reasons we have this layout on the ground. This the point where the line splits between red and blue is the halfway line of that line, so that's the exact halfway point. And if I go at right angles to it, this line goes out to the summer solstice sunrise. If I come back to it, it hits Ripon Cathedral. And once again, there's quite a lot of stuff in episode 2 supporting the idea that the site of Ripon Cathedral is much older than the 660 date that we led to believe it was built. The third one is the legend of the building of the Devil's Arrows, which I've got some more, another slide on, so we'll come back to it. But it has to do with Howe Hill, which is here. Then we went on from there to talk about the location of all of this being somewhat special. It's 10% of the Earth's circumference from the North Pole. It's 54 degrees north, which is 60% of a right angle. Similar to what the pyramids are, they're a third of the way north. And one or two other things as well that do make it, in my opinion, a selected special place. And then we went on to talk about Rudstone, the Rudstone monolith, the legends around there. And also there seems to be an indication that the people who built this knew about the size of the solar system and knew about the precession of the equinoxes. Okay. So by now, you should be believing that these people had a high level of technology in these specific areas. So surveying, astronomy, design, civil engineering, workforce management. Okay.
Yeah.
So just going on then to the first bit of the new ideas that are related to this. How did they do that? I mean, they're not supposed to have had writing. How do you survey a line that's 40 miles long and get it to within feet without being able to write down your interim measurements on the way? I think that's impossible. So I think they probably did have some form of writing. We just don't recognise it as that. If you think about if our civilization vanished tomorrow, well, anything that's digital would be totally irrecoverable because somebody comes along in 1,000 years' time that has got a similar level of civilization to what we have. First of all, they've got to identify that these bits of silicon are data storage devices. Then they've got to be able to, I mean, if it's a spinning disk, they've got to get the speed right, and they've got to be able to...
Your daughter wants to know.
Can you just put it on hold, Adam?
Yeah, sure. I need to grab some stuff anyway.
Time.
Oh.
Sorry, in 5,000 years' time, all of our paper records will have vanished as well, unless someone takes some action to preserve them. But what we have been quite good at doing is creating statues that have got text written on them. So, could that be some sort of writing?
That one's been lingering in my mind since you showed it to me, Martin. The swastika, it's amazing.
They're pretty good, some of these, aren't they?
Yeah. Amazing.
But to the best of my knowledge, I'm the only person that has ever suggested that maybe these people did have a way of recording, and you know.
Mm.
Some of these things, as we'll see later in the next episode, there's some lunar alignments that have got a whole stack of stones like this around about where the alignment stone is marked.
Can I suggest one more thing to add to your, not necessarily a technology or science, but command of the environment?
Yes.
You know, you need to, if you're making a star map that's as big as we think that this gets, you need to make sure that's all in your dominion, don't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. Yeah.
You need security. Security is
the
another aspect.
native tribes that are putting up to it might not be too pleased.
No, well, yeah, absolutely. If you're trying
But it would point if the whole thesis that I've got here is right, it would point to them having long periods of peace.
It certainly seems to be suggestive in Neolithic archaeology as well. It's not a lot of violence, is there?
Yeah. I mean, you don't go and build stone monuments if you're fighting war all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, so I've not really covered it yet, but I've hinted at it. That I think that the Thornborough Henges are an actual observatory. So they use them to observe the stars for whatever reason, and I've got one or two thoughts about that, but let's not go into that much at the moment. And I think that it was specifically, specifically, it was a lunar or a place that was given over to the moon, and you'll see why later on. But they also used it to observe other things as well. But the lunar bit was the really important bit. I did go through a phase thinking the Devil's Arrows were a solar observatory, one given over to the sun. And I'm not absolutely convinced about that, so I don't particularly want to put it in here. But you may remember this. So this is the line from the Devil's Arrows to Thornborough, and this was the solstice line that goes back to Ripon Cathedral.
Yeah.
And Peter mentioned this interesting sort of shape of around here and this circular wood. And it had grabbed me when I first looked at it, but I'd never really had a dig around. I found this ancient map, well, not ancient, but it's about 1850-ish, and it's actually called Moon Plantation. So,
that's so awesome.
It's cool.
I just thought that was an interesting extra piece of information. That
Absolutely,
yeah. Used at. Right, so this new stuff I've got here, it starts off with a legend and then goes into the theory of the alignment with Aldebaran is why we've got this layout. So if you remember, the legend was that the devil stood on How Hill and threw stones, and they became the Devil's Arrows. So the phrase that he was supposed to have said was, Burbridge, keep out to way, for Aldeburgh town I will ding down today. And here we have How Hill, Aldeburgh, the Devil's Arrows here, and you can see that the line from there to there goes straight through the centre. That distance there is 43,200 feet. That distance is a bit short of that, but if you extend that to 43,200, this becomes an exact right angle. So, if you remember that
professional number, is it, Marty?
Significant number is 43,000.
Yeah, indeed. in the Great Pyramid as well, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Peter mentioned last time that maybe How Hill might have been significant in the building as well, just from the point of surveying. And it could actually be, it can be seen from both of these places. And it is a significant high point. So you could see it from all of these places. So it could have been the point where they used to lay out the entire layout. But that's not all, because sitting on top of How Hill, there's this this building which I was never very interested in because it don't look that old.
No.
It turns out, though, that this is built on the site of a previous chapel, and that chapel was dedicated to St. Michael the Archangel, which I thought was moderately interesting when I came across it. And I thought, I wonder if there's anything about St. Michael and the devil. Well,
oh yes,
there is. So the Bible in Revelation 12:7-10 describes Michael fighting and killing the devil, and also a war in heaven. So perhaps the chapel was built there. If you remember, we've got a legend of the devil. Perhaps the chapel was built there to try and kill that legend. I've got a better legend than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
All right. But then I found this. So this is Syrian icon of St. Michael killing the devil. Oh, hang on. Can we put it on hold again?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, Kev. Yeah.
Low tire pressures. So this is a Syrian icon of the devil killing St. Michael killing the devil. And these are quite common right around the world. I think one of the newer cathedrals, or the one somewhere near Rugby, has got this on the front. Or it might be Liverpool, I can't remember which. So, stranger still, though, the picture of the Michael killing the devil has the sword looking rather odd. Like a comet's tail.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting that the further west you come, the more sword-like these images are, apparently. And the nearer the Middle East they are, the more this way they are.
Okay.
Yeah. Notice the stars in the picture.
Yes. Yeah. Saw that one by his left leg there.
Yeah. So we remember Canaban represents Aldebaran, and that points to the end of the Younger Dryas. Yeah. And Aldebaran is part of the face of the bull, the high Hades. Well, that looks to me like the high Hades. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can
see the similarity?
Yeah.
Yep.
So St. Michael also has his own star, turns out, which happens to be Aldebaran.
Okay.
So it's interesting that he's tied up with the Eye of Taurus. So that, I think, tells you that some of these legends go back a long way. A long, long way.
Does this image remind you of something from our London video, Adam?
Oh yeah, the Corona Borealis.
Well, I was thinking of Mithras slaying the bull.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, aren't you?
You got him on. You got the Mithras character on our left. You got the devil instead on instead of the bull on the right, and then he's
right. Yeah.
That's what it made me think of anyway.
I think
So-
you're
I see what
right,
you mean
yeah.
about Corona Borealis and the actual shape of the thing.
The actual shape of the
So
thing.
the bull will be Taurus.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what the next sign on is, but could it be something that could be Mithras?
I think
It'd be the one between Pisces and Taurus.
Would not St. Michael be represented as Orion? Mithras? That's what I've sort of thought it was, as Mithras
Yeah,
as
it
Orion.
could be, yeah.
And then I'm not sure. It's very tempting little rabbit hole to dive down.
Oh, yeah,
It
definitely.
is. Anyway, so I'm still on this thing that maybe Aldebaran and that angle to the Devil's Arrows and all of this legend all fit together into one neat arrangement. And that for some reason or other they wanted us to remember this, and maybe they thought that people 5,000 years hence would understand these things intrinsically, because they're bound to be more advanced than us.
Oh right, yeah.
Without realizing we've forgotten most of it. Okay, I thought that was interesting. So I now want to go on to demonstrate that this culture was not just confined to Yorkshire. So this is what we're going to be covering today. We're going to talk about alignments. We're going to go to Arbalone Castle Rig, then look at all the devil stuff. And these are all the devil sites I've found. I've missed a few of them out, actually, because a few of them are just stones that have been pushed around, erratic stones that have been pushed around by the ice. But even one of those has got an interesting alignment through Thornborough to another henge. So we're going to look south. We're going to look at Oxford, Wales, Cornwall, France, and Samhain. I can never pronounce it. And something called the Devil's Line, or what I call the Devil's Line.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay. Sorry, gone to the wrong place. So, start talking about alignments. Interestingly, if you're interested in numbers, this is slide 108 of all this. Alfred Watkins wrote a book in 1925, which anyone in the New Age movement will be able to tell you about. It's called The Old Strike Track. Prior to that, about 3 years earlier, in 22, he'd written a predecessor to this. He was really into this sort of stuff, and it must have been tremendously difficult to do in those days.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Now you just run up Google Earth and draw a few lines on it, and you've got an alignment or not.
Well, take your nice fancy car onto a motorway and just slip up there and have a look for yourself.
That's right, yeah. He wasn't the first, though. So back in 1846, there was the Reverend Duke, and in 1909, there was a German book proposing the same thing. So it's long been thought then that all of these sort of monuments and things line up and fall into straight tracks. And Watkins thought that there was also evidence of trackways on them. And that doesn't surprise me, actually, because if you think of the days before maps and all the rest of it, you want to get from one place to another. Well, how do you do it? It's turn right at the third post office down the road there, and then left at the Red Lion type thing. So it's a similar thing, isn't it? Turn right at Thornborough.
Yeah.
So alignments, I think there are 3 types, and people might think that there are more. So monuments in a straight line, 3 or more, and as Peter said, you can't do it with 2. There's a line that points to a celestial event. So we've seen one of those with the alignment from Canaban to the Devil's Arrows, pointing to the southernmost rise of Aldebaran. And once again, if you don't have the technology, how on earth do you ever find that out? So the usual things to point at are the equinox. Well, the equinox, most people would know that it's due east or due west, but do they know exactly where due east and west is? The solstice is more difficult because it varies further north and south you move, and the major lunar standstills. Star or planet rises are more difficult because stars trend along the horizon over the years. So really, you've got to know the relationship between what you're looking at and a star really is to be able to say anything about it. And the other one, which I've never seen anyone write about before, is 2 or more monuments on the same line of latitude or longitude. And we see that, and you can do this with 2 actually. The Devil's Arrows and the Rudstone monolith.
Yeah.
So both within 6 feet on the same line of latitude.
Golly.
By my definition, these things have got to be accurate. So if I draw a line and something is more than about 0.75% away from, 0.75% of the total line length away from the line, I'll rule it out as being an alignment.
Okay.
So it's got to be pretty much on. And I reached that conclusion when I was looking at Rudstone to the Devil's Arrows, and it could be that I'm being excessively tight on that. Lots of people have argued that the monuments in a straight line don't exist and they're just random. And I can understand that. And I've proved that it does work. So all those devil sites, I spent a day recreating a randomization of those and then trying to draw lines through them. And I got pretty much the same result as I would have done with just doing the normal devil sites. So I think to be able to say there's an alignment, you've got to have something more than just a straight line through 3 points.
Okay.
So I don't know whether you remember this. This is something I originally found about the Devil's Arrows, which when I was doing the very first research, but it claimed that there was an alignment down here. I don't think that's an alignment because it's not accurate enough. So if you look at it here, you can see that that's the line. Tenland's engine on here, by the way, because it's, I was going to say it's new. It's obviously not new, but it's a newish discovery.
Oh, right. Okay. Recent archaeology.
Yeah. So you can see the errors on the line there and there. And they're, I think, too far away for it to be right. So that line is nearly 5 miles long. And you get those errors. A slight change on that is up to Catterick, and this is 22.3 miles long. And you can see that it's anchored on both ends. And when you look at the errors on the line, they're all quite significant.
Okay.
So I don't think that's an alignment. However, I do think this is an alignment. So this is the other line. This is from the Devil's Arrows to Thornborough. And that passes by Nunwick Henge. It doesn't just pass by Nunwick Henge. It's within 20 feet of the centre of Nunwick Henge.
Oh, right.
And as Nunwick Henge is no more now than a crop mark, it could actually be more accurate than that. So that is that was genuinely meant to be there. And there's something else significant about Nunwick Henge, which we'll get to later. Right, so I mentioned Tenlands Henge, and you may remember last episode we mentioned Bain's Grave and Paddock Hill.
Mhm.
Those line up pretty much exactly. So the error at Paddock Hill, if I fix the ends, is 90 feet, which is less than half of 0.1 of 1% of the line length. So if that was meant, it's pretty accurate.
Hmm.
Now, this is from the Devil's Arrows to Rudstone, and these points down here I would normally reject as being too far away. So this is what I mean. How do you decide how accurate these things
Yeah.
are?
I think it seems like you've got to decide what you're happy with
Tolerances.
as a yeah, what your tolerances. Yeah, absolutely. What your
Yeah.
tolerances are, and,
Yeah.
and make a decision on that, and then go forward.
Yeah. So these are all the monuments that are possibly within the area, and if you draw lines across them all, that actually in a bad straight line with the accuracy that it does have. So there's a chance that those could have been meant. Now, I'd spoken about the line from the Devil's Arrows to Catterick as being not an alignment, but if I cut that short and start it at Cannabarn and run it up to Catterick, there is no error at Huttonmore Henge.
I can't believe how many henges you've got in the area, considering when you see distribution maps of Neolithic monuments in Britain, Yorkshire's virtually blank most of the time.
Yes, yeah, that's right. It's
And
amazing.
you've got
Wow.
many hundreds of them.
There's
Yeah.
something special about this area and
Yeah.
hedges.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I can't think. That's just nuts. There's loads of them.
I think is it 14, 13, 14, maybe 15?
Yeah.
Just in this area. Now, this particular line is actually more interesting than that, because if you extend it to Paris, it comes to within 3,600 feet of Notre Dame Cathedral,
Oh wow.
which is 0.17% on the line. Now, is that purposeful? I don't know. But it also passes in Kent a stone called the Devil's Stone, and the error there is 3,000 feet or 0.13%.
Okay.
Let's go and have a look at that.
Yeah.
Now, you remember I talked about Claro Hill as being a possible small version of Silbury Hill, and no one really knows how old it is or why it was built, and it's been knocked down now, so no one's ever going to find out. And I proposed that it was part of the monument, and I think this is one of the reasons why. So previously I've mentioned Ferrybridge Henge there. Further south there's one called Cadbury Henge. Now these line up all the way through, and that line is nearly 42 miles long. The error at Ferrybridge is 0.4%. The error at Claro Hill is 130 feet.
Yeah.
I think Claro Hill was meant to be part of the design.
So what is the knowledge on Claro Hill then? Is it just that it was a prehistoric mound and now it's gone?
Yes, prehistoric mound that's gone.
And all right, fair enough. And
That's
it long gone, is it? Like
no, they knocked it down when they widened the A1 in, I think it was 1998.
what? Oh my god.
Jeez, man.
Well,
Fair enough.
You know about the extraction of minerals from the Thornborough area, do you?
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's gravel quarries there, and the gravel company wanted to extend into the henge site.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
And there was the locals said, no, you can't do that.
yeah.
Good.
So there was quite a big battle about it, and in the end, Sense won. And since then, the company has given the henge site to
Yes.
I don't know, British Heritage or somebody
Yeah.
like that. They'll probably knock it down or turn it into houses or whatever.
Well, they just won't do anything whatsoever. I think it's generally the English heritage. They just,
Yes, yeah, that's right.
yeah, you might get
Yeah.
a sign up if you're lucky.
So,
They'll mow it.
quick summary of that then. So these are the ones we've had. There's 2 or 3 others that I've found. As I said, there's a devil's stone out here somewhere, and that goes through another henge through Thornborough and down to, actually no, it goes to Cinderby and maybe Pudding Pie Hill, because I didn't know about that when I was doing this. So and there's another couple, but I think we've seen enough of them. We know they exist.
Yeah.
So this is it on a map of Britain, what we've covered so far. So it's 67 miles east to west, 64 miles north to south, colour code, and you've got Thornborough in the middle, you've got henges in green, and you've got stones in red. So Arbelo, it's obviously one. I mean, I think most people have heard who are interested in Neolithic things will know about Arbelo. It's one of the premier sites in the north. So it's a henge with stones. So if you remember, we defined what a henge was, but the stones laid down. So quite interesting. It's also not a circular henge.
No.
So it's 66 miles southwest of the Devil's Arrows, in the middle of Derbyshire, right on the crest of the Pennines. So it's down here. So some pretty pictures of it. It's a real nice area, actually. It's worth going at.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
Yeah. So somebody did a thing of what it'd look like if they're all stood up. Of course, we don't know whether they're ever standing or not.
No. No.
That gives you an idea of the stone size, although there's nobody there. So you still don't have much of an idea of the stone size. There's somebody stood on.
Oh, right.
Right,
Oh,
right.
yeah, okay.
So they're fairly big, but not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the vicinity, this is a real rich area. So this is my favourite, 9 Stones Close, which is actually only 4 stones now, and they look quite small there, but they're bigger than I am. Quite a lot bigger than I am. They stand next to this outcrop, which is called Robin Hood Stride. And I went there and I was immediately struck by Robin Hood Stride. Looks as though somebody's been at it with a hammer and chisel. So it's got these grooves in it. Do you remember the grooves in the stones?
I do.
Yeah, and it's
That also looks like a granite outcrop.
Yeah.
So
I think it's millstone actually.
Oh, right, okay.
Granite, but I'm not sure. There's also in the bottom, there's things that could be sort of cup mark type things. So I found 2 or 3 of them when I was there. So I think somebody's been at that. I mean, I don't know whether that cross is recent or not, but certainly all this stuff is old. So I had this idea that maybe there was some way of transferring energy across from the pyramids, and I'd get caught by this and then beam down.
Why not?
Why not?
I mean, I must admit, if I was at 9 stones, the first thing I'd do is look around, and if I saw Robin Hood stride, I'd be like, "That is related somehow.
Yeah.
It has to be."
Somehow it's
Somehow,
related.
yeah.
I mean, these stones were built there. You
Mm.
can't see what I'm pointing at. Those stones were built there without knowing that this was.
No, you couldn't miss that, could you?
Yeah. There's also some other nice bits around here. So, Nine Ladies Stone Circle, which you've probably heard of. This is absolutely, I mean, the stones are all small, but it's really peaceful environment. When you go there, you just feel as though there's something there saying, calm down, it's all okay.
Mm.
Interesting.
And then this one in a wood between there and there, Dolto. And once again, it's a nice little stone circle. I mean, Peter will know I have this idea that there were multiple phases of building these, and that the later people, the Beaker people, still built stone circles, but they were made of small stones, and there was no grand plan about them. And I think these are typical Beaker people stones. Right, so you'll remember this. So we drew a line from Yarnbury Henge past the Devil's Arrows to Rudstone, and that's where Thornbury is, and there was a henge north of Yarnbury called Castle Dykes, and there's Arborough. So we draw a line between Arborough and Castle Dykes. That line is 125 kilometres long. Sounds better than 77.7 miles.
Oh, I don't know. You quite like space.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Right, the error at Yarnbury is less than 100 feet.
Mm.
So once again, that looks deliberate to me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, it's interesting that these are the only henge monuments on the top of the Pennines between Arborough and the Scottish border. So the fact that they line up, remember I said that things have to have something more than just a line.
Mm.
And all the ones we've seen so far are pretty much all henges, rather than, I haven't thrown in the Red Lion pub or St Michael's Church.
Yeah.
They're all henges. And the density of henges isn't that high. So to have them lined up, I think tells you that somebody meant that to happen.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I was fiddling about one day and I found this. If I extend that line, I can run it all the way up to Orkney. It goes through 6 stone circles, a stone row, and a standing stone site. It's 406 miles long. And those are the errors on each site. You can see that they get slightly more as you get further north. And it depends, actually. I mean, I've not done a least what's it called? There's a statistical technique for line fitting. I've not done an exact one of them, so you might be able to get it a bit more accurate than that, but not.
Would spherical geometry affect it at all, Marty? A straight line? Does it affect a straight line?
I think it's a very good question.
Yep.
Because that might even make some of the things more accurate rather than.
It might do. Yeah. I did a bit of digging around on Google Earth about spherical geometry and straight lines, and no one really knew the answer, but the best I got was it allows for it.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I haven't got a clue.
No.
Well, I think as Randall Carlson often says, and I think Robin Heath said in his latest Megalithomania talk as well, was that you can see that the in his view, the ancients were going for best fit. So yes, there is incredible accuracy and precision, but also you can see that they have a very pragmatic approach
Yeah.
to placement as well,
Yeah.
and an understanding that in real life you can't. There's certain things that you can't do on that you can do on paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the top of the Pennines is actually a fairly dense area.
Oh golly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all sorts going on. Yeah.
So the question is that line special? So what I did was I moved the top of the line by 0.5 degree at a time to see what lined up, and I can't get anywhere near that level of accuracy through any of those.
Right.
So here's your money and takes your choice. I think that's deliberate. But
Yeah.
Right. You may have heard that below is due north of Stonehenge, but rather sadly it's not. 1.3 degrees out. So you could see why people previously might have thought so. But while we're in Wiltshire, the Great Pyramid has an exterior angle of 51.51 degrees, which is the same latitude as Silbury Hill. Silbury Hill has an exterior angle of 30 degrees, which is the same latitude as the Giza Complex. And the angle of the main axis between Thornbury and the Devil's Arrows, if you measure it from east, is 51.12. So is there some significance in 51 degrees?
Yeah.
I don't know. Right, so we've looked at below. Castle Rig is up here, and it's another one of England's premier sites, and it's a pretty one. So it's not really a circle. Somebody sat on it.
It's got a rectangle in it as well.
Yes, yeah. Not quite sure what that is. I've looked for alignments on this, and there's supposed to be an outer stone somewhere, which might point to the winter solstice sunset. But I can't find the stone, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's pretty.
Yeah,
it certainly is.
Surrounding area, there's not many megaliths, but there's this thing, which is a glacial erratic. Weighs 2,000 tons. So this was dragged along by the glaciers and deposited here. 30 foot high, circumference of 90 feet. I just thought it might be interesting. It's named after Balder, the son of the Norse god Odin. So,
that's a stunning piece of nature, isn't it?
it is.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it is, isn't
It's
it?
amazing.
I'd like to
So,
visit it.
Go on the list, Adam. It's go on the list of visiting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Remember what I said about there's always something in your area that you don't know about that is interesting. When I first started all this, I'd been watching Randall Carlson thinking, oh, it must be great to be in America where there's all these scablands and all these mounds.
Yeah.
I wish there was something like that around here. And then you realise that you're sitting on top of it all.
You can't move for it, can you?
Yeah. Right, I draw a line to Castle Rig from the Devil's Arrows, and I get Castle Dykes Henge, which, if you remember, was the same henge that went down to below. So that line is one of these interesting ones in terms of miles and kilometres. So it's 77 miles or 124 kilometres with very small amounts of error. So whether that's deliberate or not, who knows? Castle Dykes is 0.35% off the line. So I think once again
That's better. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah.
The angle from the Devil's Arrows is 298 degrees, which is the minor lunar standstill. Right, let's have a look at devils. I was just playing around with, is there any relationship between the Pleiades and the devils? And of course, in America, you've got the Devil's Tower, which is famous for that film. I can't remember the film name now.
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters, that's the one. Turns out that the Lakota tribe in America have a legend associating Devil's Tower and the Pleiades. So a group of Lakota girls were pursued by a giant bear, and they prayed for safety, and they ascended into heaven and became the Pleiades. Now, if you think that the bear might represent the Great Bear, and we're looking for comets somewhere in Taurus, you draw a line from the Great Bear to the Pleiades, and you get pretty near that radiant point for me talked about previously.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I didn't necessarily go there, but I was just interested in that association.
Yeah, no, interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Near to the Devil's Arrows, there are another two sites. There's the Devil's Stone, which is an ancient stone in Cockgrange Church, and Devil's Cross Hill, which is a tumulus, or maybe a long barrow. Once again, it's been demolished, so we don't really know. This is the Devil's Stone. It's regarded as Romano-British, and we'll know what that means. It's possibly a Sheila na gig, if that's how you pronounce it, which was a Celtic goddess of creation and destruction. It's typically shown as a naked woman displaying an exaggerated vulva, which you can just about see down here.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah. The line across to there possibly marks out the minor lunar standstill from the Devil's Arrows. I'm not convinced, but somewhere near. This stone has been moved around a few times, but they've moved it inside the church now, so hopefully it won't get any more erosion to it. Now, interestingly, remember we were talking about St. Michael and the devil and on the hill? Well, this church is St. Michael's.
Ah.
He's cropping up again.
Devil's Cross Hill, which was the destroyed mound, it contained human bones and all that sort of stuff. And I think it came from the ancient British period. And this is a figure that was found near it. Once again, it's possibly a marker for the minor lunar standstill. So, not that interested. It could also be a marker from the Devil's Arrows for the rise of Cirrus. So it's at the right angle. You wouldn't be able to see Devil's Cross Hill from there. The angle is wrong, but the angle across the sky is right. So that shows more or less what you would see. Right, let's have a look at the wider site. So I showed you this before. These are all the devil sites I've collected. Now, I've mentioned my 3 o'clock voices several times. This, I think, is the most interesting bit about them, because I more or less had an argument with the things. So I got totally stuck and I couldn't progress at all 18 months ago. I was just not finding anything new at all. So I kept saying, well, give me something. And it kept saying, look south. I have looked south. Look down to Cadbury-Henge, which is right down in South Yorkshire. Well, you don't get any explanation from these things. I mean, you hear stories of people who've been given songs and books. Well, I don't get any more than, you know, one word type thing or an image of something on a map. So this went on for a while. Look south, look south. In the end, I decided to draw a line going directly south. Now this is the Devil's Quoit in it's in Oxford. It's near Oxford, a place called Whitney. It's one of the most researched sites in the UK, and it's been totally rebuilt. So you don't necessarily have to assume that it did look exactly like this when it was. You know, I suspect the stone placement and stuff has moved somewhat. But
I've heard some people say that I mean, I don't know how good the reconstruction is, but apparently the volume of research done before the reconstruction was incredible.
yes,
And they
100%.
really did try
Yeah.
to cover as much and as do it as best they can. It's what I've heard other people say about it. I don't know how true it is, but
It certainly looks good in that picture.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So the Devil's Quoit is down there. So we're getting further and further away from Yorkshire. And just so you know, quoit is a flat stone thrown during a game. A game of quoits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so if I draw a line due south, it's 163 miles and it's due south of the Devil's Arrows. So the error is 600 feet, which is 0.07% of the line length.
Yeah.
Bloody yeah.
So the voices could have been right.
That's amazing.
That's one of the stones, and there is an interesting YouTube thing. If anyone wants the link to it, no doubt we can put it in the comments, Adam.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'd like to watch that.
Yeah. So there are a number of Devil's Quoits, most of them in South Wales. So you can see there's a group there. There's one down here, and there's one down in Cornwall. That's a better picture of the South Wales ones.
Well, they're pretty close together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Cornwall one, so you can see that it was name's gone totally from my mind. One of them things with 3 stones and a cat.
Dolmen.
A dolmen. A dolmen.
Yeah, they use quoit for dolmens in Cornwall, but they also have cromlech as well, which I think is more accurate for dolmen.
Well,
but yeah, they've got Lanyon quoit as well. But
we've got one of these. I think that one. I think the Devil's Quoit at Newton Cromlech.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that part of this problem with quoit, cromlech, stone circle, dolmen is the fact that Neolithic archaeology, or this sort of period, it's like the same with the definition of henge. The names came long before there was any sort of proper scientific exploration.
Yes, yeah.
So you get things named with certain names even if they aren't quite what
One of the things I was reading about this bit of South Wales was someone was saying, seems that any stone anywhere around here is called a quoit.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, so these are some of them. So this is Newton Cromlech one. This is Stackpole Farm, and there's another one on the other side of a river from there. And then this is one that's just a bit further north. These go down from the northwest up there to the southeast there, and that is more or less at right angles to that.
Okay.
Some of them do have alternative names. I thought I'd put them in. There's an interesting tale about the one at Stackpole has been that these stones go dancing on summer solstice eve to a tune played by the devil. And then at dawn go back to where they were.
Right.
Sorry, I've just got got the Coit reference. Sorry, I've just understood. We were back to devil throwing stones again, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, sorry. Being a bit slow on that one. Yeah, I've got on there.
Right, so this was the line we've already established down to Whitney. I draw a green line, due west, absolutely due west. Within my tolerance, that gives me an alignment across to the Cromlech one. So the error's a little bit large, but you'll see why I think that is a genuine error rather than anything else as we go on. I then draw this yellow line from the Devil's Arrows. That is the winter solstice sunset. Now, obviously, you can't mark it from there, but I suspect they knew it, and that was part of the layout. So what I'm conjecturing here is that there is a big map that covers a big part of England that has been designed into that place. Right, this black line, which you can hardly see, is the sighting line from Whitney to the equinox sunset. So it's where the sun would cross the horizon. And that actually goes to the Devil's Quoit in Pembroke. So you extend the line from where it crosses the hill line, then runs down to the Devil's Quoit in Pembroke. That red line is almost exactly north-south down to the one in Cornwall. Went to a degree off, which I wasn't happy about when I discovered it. I'd actually got the Devil's Quoit in Cornwall in the wrong place because it's wrong in megalithic.co.uk. If you actually find it on Google Earth, it moves it very slightly.
Nice. This is a number of times this has happened to you. You think you've got an error, and then you look at it another way, and you've actually got something more accurate than you thought you had in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Amazing.
The pink line marks the sunset on Samhain, or Samhain, or however you pronounce it, Halloween.
Yeah.
As seen from Whitney.
Crikey.
So all of that looks as though it's deliberate.
Yeah.
Now, let's have a closer look then at the Pembroke bit. So I can draw a line through 3 of the Devil's Quoits, and it's 6.9 miles long. At Stackpole Farm, that's this one in the middle, it's 25 feet out. Yeah. This other one at St. Twinels is 600 foot off the line, so it's not part of this alignment. So it's there for another reason. Looking southeast down the line, you'd see the sunrise on Samhain. Still can't pronounce that. Looking northwest, it may be the minor lunar standstill, and it's also very near the sunset on Beltane, which is May Day.
Of course. Can I just do one tangent, Marty? And that is Helstone in Cornwall. Every I believe it's May Day. Oh, it's on the 8th of May it's held. It's Flora Day. And the dance is started off by a performance of St. Michael slaying the devil. And in a local pub, I think the pub's shut down. There's a big old rock called the Hellstone, which was the rock that was meant to have fallen down with the devil when he came down. Now the rock is a local bit of rock, and I think the name Helston actually comes from lease for court. It's Helliston, so it's obviously a very important place at some point. But I just thought it was interesting to throw St. Michael on May Day fighting the devil there for you.
Some DM me with the location of that.
Yeah, sure, we'll do.
Whether we have any relation. This line also goes through Marion Court, which is a hill fort. So the best view of it is from above. So you can see that you can just about make out the embankment there, but it goes straight through the middle. So whether that whether that was built because of that line, or it was maybe a henge that had turned into a hill fort, who knows?
So it certainly happens a lot. Henges being turned into later monuments happens quite a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
So that line that goes from the Devil's Quoit in Oxford to the far one, which the name hasn't appeared on there, has a number of monuments along the way, and they're all, if you look, I've given the errors on them there, and in fact, there's the errors. So they're all very close.
Oh, some very interesting names coming up there, Marty.
Yeah.
I know the two in Blair the Ad is, I believe, on the Southeast Wales star map as well.
Is it? All right.
Yes.
So that's there.
Yes.
Now that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this word "tuin," so it's sort of used for mounds, isn't it, Adam?
Yep.
But it has a bit of a dual meaning and can also mean star.
Right.
So that's good one to keep an eye on.
You'll notice I've put this one in red, Quoits Wood, which is down there. So almost at the end of our line. Now, if I draw a line from the Devil's Quoit at Stackpole Farm, which is the one directly on that line, due north of it is Quoits Wood.
And with a name like Quoits Wood, it probably had some stones in it at some point.
It probably did.
Yeah.
Now, we've already seen a north-south line from the Devil's Quoit in Cornwall, but if I then draw that line up to Quoits Wood, so previously it went to the one in Pembroke, and this one goes to Quoits Wood. It's slightly less accurate than the other one, but even so, the error at Stackpole Farm is only 90 feet. So,
yeah.
I think that's pretty good. And then, if you don't think this is convincing enough, if you go back to Thornborough and look down the line of the Major Lunar Standstill, it comes down to directly down to Cornwall. And if you go to the Devil's Arrows and do the same thing, the two lines converge.
I'm sorry, all I can do is swear at this point. I just don't really know what to do with the information.
Well, neither do I.
Yeah, I mean, even
all I'm saying is this must have been designed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Certainly appears like your east-west line is very similar to Robin Heath, Stonehenge to the Preseli Bluestone Quarry line as well.
I had a quick look at that actually, and I couldn't quite fit it in, but it was a quick look.
You can see there's some sort of corridor across there, of importance, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, there seems to be a design. I don't know whether there's any functional requirement for that design, if you know what I mean. Does it do anything? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So, So the Devil's Quoit is here. If I draw a line from Rudstone and extend it, I finish up at the alignments to Curliscan, which is the biggest alignment at Karnak.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm what 750 feet out, but given the length of the line, it's not a lot. So it's 465 miles long. Whitney is nearly on the golden ratio point, but not quite. Which I was quite sad when I realised it wasn't.
You know, looking at Howard Crowhurst's work as well, Marty. If you ever get the chance, you should possibly trudge into those woods and have a look and see if there's actually anything there on the exact.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
he's pointed out several stones that he found because of work he did with the alignments and just sort of wandered off, you know, nearby. You know.
Yeah. It's got to be worth looking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go through a couple of Channel Islands there as well. Sorry.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, no.
I remember you were interested in the Channel Islands.
Yeah. Yeah. Very mysterious place.
I mean, to be fair, it would be difficult to miss a monument in the Karnak area, but but Kerriscan is the biggest.
Yeah.
So this just gives you an idea.
Yeah, it's littered.
Those are the two biggest alignments, the column alignments. So the rows, I've got a picture, but they're just rows of stones. But these are all the monuments, so you can see that hitting one wouldn't be a clever trick. But the fact it goes to, you know, Karnak is interesting in itself. Yeah. Why would it do that?
Yeah.
So this is a typical alignment, so rows of stones. Lots of people have done work on these to try and find out why they're in those rows, and you can see that the rows aren't particularly straight, and no one has been able to find anything really, and that's a closer one on the ground. Here's Dolman.
Stunning.
If I go from the Devil's Arrows through Whitney, I finish up in northern France again at this the Devil's Ass. So that's 304 miles long, and the area at Whitney is 400 feet. But it's another Devil's.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. Now you might find this one amusing. So everyone knows about St. Michael's alignments, the most famous ley line in England. So it goes right from down here through St. Michael's Mount up to Hopton. Well, I can draw a line, a green line, through several devil's sites that reflects it.
Wow.
We have Michael battling the devil here.
Yes.
So this link between Michael and the devil keeps popping up.
Yeah.
Nice work. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, that line passes through Luton, so I don't know what that tells you about anything.
I won't comment.
No, I didn't either. Now we've got the Devil's Arrows. This is just one last thing on this. So, so the Devil's Toe, which I think you know well, Peter, is on the Devil's line, so down here. So if I have a line from there to the Devil's Quoit in Pembroke, and this is back to the comment you made about the Mayday thing. So bear this in mind. Passes through the Devil's Stone at Sheba, and it's 160 feet away. And the line from Pembroke is a major lunar standstill. So the angle it makes to the Devil's Arrows line is, as near as I can tell, 90 degrees. So that comes off the Devil's line at 90 degrees. Now, because fitting a line, you can be a little bit out. I can be maybe half a degree out either way on the fitting of the Devil's Line to those monuments. But you know, I think that's reasonably good.
That's good. Can we just have a little pause? Sorry.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so this is the Devil's Toe is on the Devil's Line, so Peter will know this. Know it well, I suspect.
Indeed.
What you may not know about is the Devil's Stone at Sheba.
Shabir, I believe it's pronounced.
Shabir, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So they have this ceremony of turning the stone on the 5th of November every year to keep the devil at bay for the next 12 months. Now, does that ring a bell to your story?
Yes.
Now, the church at Sheba is St. Michael's.
Ah, fantastic.
7th of November is a cross-quarter day, which is halfway between the solstice and the equinox. And Samhain is the 1st of November.
Mm.
So,
I certainly think that Guy Fawkes Day was placed on the 5th because there was already festivals taking place on that day.
Yeah. I've got a comment about that, actually.
Mm.
So, Samhain, pronounced Samhain. And in fact, if you look at pronunciations on the internet, you get 4 or 5 different ones. So take your choice, really. So the Celts, and probably going back a long way before them, had this idea of the wheel of the year. So it's a bit like the Indian cycles of time and all that sort of thing. But this is quite good because it gives the names of all the things that they had in there. So we're down here in November, October. Christmas is Yule. Beltane is May Day, and so on. So Samhain was the festival to end the harvest and the beginning of the winter. So traditionally it was dated as the 1st November by our calendar. And pretty much the same date as Halloween. So probably Halloween is probably the follow-on from it, really. And then the Catholic Church decided to put in one of its own in opposition, which is All Hallows Day, which is the day after, I think. And of course, the Day of the Dead is quite famous all around the world for being roughly on that date. In legend, it's when the shroud between the living world and the dead is at its thinnest, so doorways to the other world open and supernatural beings come out and do nasty things in our world. And it's easy to laugh, but we have electric lights. So souls from of the dead were thought to return to their homes and would need to be fed if they did. So food was left out for them. Burial mounds opened and allowed spirits to enter the world. This is a legend in Ireland where Elaine appeared every Samhain and burned Tara. And in the end, Fionn came and fought him and beat him. But I thought that picture was, given what we've talked about today, was pretty interesting, really.
Absolutely.
You can see maybe this is a comic tale again.
The shielded warrior as well.
Yeah, shielded warrior killing the devil. So, bonfires associated.
There we go.
So there you go. November the 5th. There's some talk of human sacrifice. I don't know that that's ever been confirmed. I suspect it comes from the Roman black
Yeah.
propaganda.
Yeah.
Although, before we go on, I had a dream about this 6-9 months ago, and it was like, have you ever done remote viewing or tried to do remote viewing?
I've
I've
tried.
given it a go once.
It's quite difficult, I find. Although, Shannon has got a remote viewing thing on the brothers' Discord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did that. Oh, I went through the first 4. I think there's 7 that she's. I went through the first 4. Got 3 of them wrong, but 1 of them I got spot on.
No, fair.
What that tells you, I don't know.
It's been years since I've given it a go. I've not tried it on the Discord one, but I should give that a go. Really.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. So anyway, I had this dream, and it felt like I was remote viewing, and it felt I was in the air, somewhere above and to the north of the Devil's Arrows, and it was night, and there were these fires burning, and then there was this horrific female scream, and then it ended. So who knows?
Mm.
Now, the Day of the Dead has generated a theory about impacts. So I don't know whether you've heard Randall talking about it. So the similarity of the dates all around the world, he puts down to an impact from the Taurid meteor stream around about Halloween date. Now, there is a problem with that, though, because the radiant point of meteor streams moves over the years in a similar way to what the stars does. So, in the 10,800 BC, which is if you remember, the start of the Younger Dryas, which is what he was implying was the event that caused it. The Taurid meteor stream is indeed active in one part of the year, but it's June. So I don't think that idea holds water.
Fair.
Which is rather sad because it's a nice idea.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah.
Right, so just to summarise that then, I think there's clear evidence that there's a relationship between sites with the name of the devil. Not all of them, and some of them might be more recent, been named more recently, but some of them look as though they go back a long way in time. So could the naming have been maintained, passed on, the locals pass on the name, and then eventually somebody from the map company comes along and says, what do they call that pile of stones? That's the Devil's Quoit. So could that have been passed on for 5,000 years? Now, just to go back to what I was saying about alignments, because 3 monuments are in a row are aligned, doesn't mean that they're related. But if they have something else about them, there's a greater chance. So if they're called something devil and they're in a line. So what I've done here is I've chosen a subset of all those monuments that I could say maybe have another relationship, and then drawn lines through them. And I think I've shown that there is some sort of plan to it. And that somebody at some time in deep history has sat down, probably with a reasonably accurate map of Britain, and said, we'll build something here or build something there. And that goes totally against anything any archaeologist or historian will tell you.
Mm.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Right, so that's the end of the devil bit. So we've talked about what I think an alignment is, and I don't think it's similar to what other people think. I first got into this, by the way, when Shannon suggested that I look at ley lines. And I very quickly got totally confused because you can draw a line and you get loads of points on it. So you get sort of holy wells and fords and hill forts and pubs and churches.
Yeah.
And how do you know which one's important and what's on the line and what's off the line? And so the line from the Devil's Arrows to Yarnborough, I identified about 28 things of various types. And I just, I mean, I could have said, yeah, it's definitely a ley line, but just wasn't convinced.
Mm.
Yeah. We talked about Arbaloon, Castle Rig, and then went on to the Devil's Quoits and the Devil's Line, and then a little bit about legend. And I think that's probably it, but just to give you an idea of what's left, I think there's probably one episode left. So we talk about star alignments.
Mm-hmm.
And probably, I think there's a bit in there about how you identify them and such like. And then one thing I think is quite clever is the numbers bit. So
Cool. Yeah.
Pi, which is the golden ratio, pi, Euler's constant, and the lunar diameter, look to me as though they're all encoded into the design. And then the real age of the site.
Cool. I want the number. I'm looking forward to this number, Martin.
There you go.
Great. Fantastic.
Excellent. Thanks
That's
again, Martin.
site, by the way. Just to show that I'm open to foreign intervention.
Yeah, end on France. Well, now you've ended on France. Could you just go back to Dartmoor a minute? could you find that slide with the? I just want to mention about the Devil's Tour, about that stone. Just a bit of local information. If you could find the picture, because the picture, I think it's like with a lot of these henge ones, you don't quite get the scale, do you?
No, you don't, do you?
No.
Oh.
So the line we reckon goes through the Devil's Tour, but the stone is actually just off the. Well, I mean, the line. It depends what you think about accuracy, but the stone is on top of the tour. The stone itself is called Bear Down Man, and I'm not quite sure where that name comes from.
I think that I've. You'll see that the Devil's Tour itself is slightly south of the
Slightly south, yeah.
Yeah. But the Bear Down Man stone is sort of north of there, so it's more accurate than
there
that.
we go.
So yeah, so that's.
So it looks a bit unimpressive there, but that is probably a good 2.5 meters high, possibly 3.
You need somebody stood against them.
Yeah, you do, and it is actually, if your pet theory about bigger stones, older, smaller stones, younger, is correct. Bear Down Man is the biggest standing stone on Dartmoor. It's really impressive, and we've got loads of monuments, but a lot of them are on that small stone scale.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely fascinating when you've got this link to a bit further back in time, that your line goes right through one of our biggest monuments on the moor, and it's also, although I have visited it, it's an absolute bitch to get to.
I can imagine. It looks like a flat, wet, peaty moor.
Yeah.
And if the weather is, I mean, you won't get to it this weather, would you?
No. If it's foggy, misty, you need to know your bearings and have map and compass and stuff, because you can very easily get get lost. And yeah, it's absolutely miles away from anywhere you can park a car. It's
I mean,
really out of the way.
That picture was taken midsummer, I guess, and
Yeah.
it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Looks
yeah.
amazing.
You had a lovely stroll over there. Yeah, no,
You went up there last Tuesday.
yeah,
No.
it's quite famously inaccessible. So they certainly didn't put a standing stone there so the local public could enjoy it at the time. That site has been chosen for that stone specifically.
Yeah.
So,
there are a few that we've been through that must be like that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You
I
think
mean,
this location has been chosen, not yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
brilliant.
you can think that the one at Whitney that might have been a population centre, and maybe even the ones in the valleys in Yorkshire, but the ones on the moors. I mean, it's
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that Whitney one. I mean, you're right. Back towards the Stonehenge landscape with Whitney, you're not just a bit further north, really, aren't you?
yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. That was great, Marty. Thank you so much.
It was, yeah.
Really looking forward to another one. The last one. And that year.
The trouble is that I've been doing this since I think the first lockdown. So when was that? Was that 21?
2020, wasn't it?
20.
Yeah.
Right. But there are periods when I'm almost repulsed from doing it. You know, it's like there's something stopping me. And then there's periods when I get enthusiastic again.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to describe, really, but I'm in one of the down periods at the moment.
When you work at things intensely, sometimes it can be hard to get back into when you've had a break from some, and then other time it's got to have that, you got to have that motivation to do it, I guess. But I understand that. I do understand sometimes I can't look at it, I can't read anything for pages because I've done it too much. I've done too much brain work. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're trying to work something out and you've been banging your head against it for a while.
Yeah.
You can just be absolutely sick of it. I've certainly found that with the mining research as well.
Yeah.
Just you get to a point where you think, I can't even bear to think about it.
Yeah.
It's nice to have your toes in a few different things to just dip into every now and then, isn't it? So you can get a bit of this is fascinating about the naming of the Michaels and Devil stuff, because there's clearly some sort of powerful story which didn't have this Christian gloss over it at some point.
It must be, mustn't it?
But then it's been almost directly verbatim translated into a Christian thing, right. Without missing anything off. We know where all the places are that are devils. We know all the places that St. Michael's.
Yeah.
We can almost demonstrate the relationship through artwork and all this sort of stuff. But it's been completely Christianized, and now sunk into the sort of the level of myth and legend. But there's something physical on the ground that predates obviously the Christian idea by thousands of years. Amazing. I love that Devils and Michael's line. That was great.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I only did that as, a bit of fun, really. I didn't think it was relevant. And then you add bits to it and it suddenly begins to pop up and you think, there is something about this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Fantastic.
Glad I don't live in Luton.
Yeah.
We'll edit that bit off the end, Mark.
No offense to people that do live in.
I'm sure they're thinking the same thing. Yeah, great. Cool.
Right. So thanks for that, guys.
Right.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. We'll if we sort of cut it around there, Adam, and then we'll record an outro.
Hi everyone, and happy New Year. So we've had Martin again today for part 3 of his Yorkshire megalithic complex. We did expand out into other areas, not just
Oh, too
Yorkshire.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did. That went all sorts of places I wasn't expecting, really.
yeah, absolutely. Especially France and some alignments up with Karnak and also Notre Dame in
Yeah.
Paris.
Devon, Cornwall, Southeast Wales.
Yeah,
We were all over, weren't we? So I really hope you folks enjoy that. There should be a little bit of everything for everyone.
absolutely. And one thing which was a bit of a bombshell was is there a devil's line that goes across from adjacent to the Michael's line, which is in the keeping of the whole myth of Archangel Michael and the devil. So he goes into a whole thing about that, and I hope you enjoy that too.
Yeah, it'll be fab. We're just going to mention a couple of things coming up, sticking on the theme of star maps. We've got Steve Willits coming to talk about the Southeast Wales zodiac as first proposed by Wilson and Blackett in their book, The Discovery of the Ark of the Covenant. And we're very excited to have Steve on, not off, he's on. You might remember him from speaking to Ross a couple of times. Which you might still be able to find on the Britain's Hidden History channel. But yeah, we're really looking forward to diving into that and seeing what revelations Steve has for us on that front. And we've got a couple of our own bits coming up, haven't we, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working on a few things. There's enough information for a London hidden London round 2, so I'm going to come back with
Nice.
that. And I'm working on so it's sort of like a video on the legacy of British Christianity. So I'm delving into this book quite a lot, which you can get at the website where Jesus is buried. I think Ross wanted to call it Britain's Hidden Christianity as well at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's very much the theme of that sort of content. So I'll be looking at that and trying to give that whole subject some air to breathe in the video. And much more
I think
to come.
we've touched on it so many times, but to really flesh it out and dive into it would be fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's all to come.
Absolutely. So hope you enjoy, Marty, and we're in Yorkshire Megalithic Complex, part 3. Enjoy.
Enjoy.